Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day one of APTConnect. We're going to go ahead and let everybody start joining. Our panelist, our speaker for today is joining right now. He was just having a little bit of technical difficulties, so we just wanted to get everybody in. I hope you are all in. Aaron and Alex's session that they just had. What a great session, a lot of great content. If for some reason you were not able to attend that session, know that tomorrow it will be recorded and it will be in the resources for that session, so you can go back and rewatch it. Hello, everybody. Go ahead and let us know where you are logging in from this morning. Mark is getting all situated and we'll have him ready to go in just a minute or two.
Okay, Sloan, are you there?
So,
okay.
Good morning, everybody. I see some familiar faces that were on the last session, so that's wonderful. Just a reminder, today is also dedicated to service team professionals. We're super excited to be celebrating our maintenance team professionals this month also with Maintenance Appreciation Month.
Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. All right, Mark is all getting situated. I see your screen. I can hear you. Everything
Wonderful.
is great. Sorry for the little fire drill this morning. Everybody's now awake and ready to go. So, okay, just a few housekeeping things. You guys were all on the last session, so you probably already know this, but the best way to view this is to exit full screen and then to open up your chat so that you can see what people are saying. You're more than welcome to engage in the chat. Just make sure that you're saying to all panelists and attendees. And then if you have questions for Mark, you can certainly put that in the questions box, and we'll save some time at the end for Mark to answer a couple of questions. We will be giving a gift card again at the end of this session. So make sure you stay on until the end so that we can draw for that. And then because it is Maintenance Appreciation Month, we will be putting a name for all the people that attend today's sessions into a final drawing at the end of the day for another $100 gift card. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mark Kukrow. We are super blessed to have him with us. He is a national recognized speaker and trainer. He has got great wisdom. He is very well known for his dedication to service teams. And so we're happy to have him join us virtually this morning. So Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Tricia. And hello, everyone. And thank you for joining us. I know we have a filled event and you could be at any other session than this, but you're here and I appreciate it. So thank you. The topic today is one, we have two that are very near and dear to me. And for those of you that haven't met, I started off on site many years ago. And I've started off as a groundskeeper and I moved my way up, through the company and the organization and the industry until I finally went out on my own 17 years ago. So I've been in this industry my entire life and I know what it's like firsthand. And I still do work on things and work with customers in a different capacity now. But the thing that's really interesting too is how much of a connection and a disconnection there is at the same time with people in the field. So we'll go through a couple of things. The slide is that the topic is mastering your maintenance routine. Now, for those of you that may not know, in my personal life, I'm also a professional jiu-jitsu coach. I own an academy and I've been doing that for 30 years. And so there's a lot of parallels that we can learn in business between coaching and supervising and managing. And so I want to share some of those insights and experiences as well too. So this is my information. It's +1 Incorporated Service Team Training. And I would like to just really ask you a question. And I want you to kind of like look at the computer, look at your screen and zoom in a little bit. And I want you to ask this question to yourself and if there's anyone around you. Have you ever just looked at a company or a group of people or a property and you look at that group one group in particular and you think, they just get results. I mean, why is it that this group gets results and with the same exact resources, another group doesn't? And very often in coaching, you'll find that people like to use, these quotes and these sayings and these phrases. But at the end of the day, are we really getting the results that we want? And I hope the answer is yes. Have you also ever looked at someone? And I want you to answer this in the chat box. And let me pull this up here. Have you ever looked at someone and thought, I honestly don't know how you still have a job. I don't know. Yeah, exactly, Cassandra, right? Chris, Michelle, and by the way, look at me for a moment. If they're next to you, I'm sorry. I don't mean to make it awkward, but exactly, plead the fifth. So it's interesting too, when you look at a group, if you give 3 teams the exact same resources and timeframes, the exact same challenge, why is it one team does better than the other 2? And it has a lot to do with the way that we look at ourselves and our improvement. And just because things are okay and they're working all right, doesn't mean they can't be improved. And this is one of the hallmark indicators of people that are growth minded is, am I ever really truly satisfied with where we are, where I am, where the team is, where the results are? And so just because things work does not mean there's no room for improvement. In fact, there's usually room for a lot of improvement. And if you'd like to write this down, what often prevents growth is accepting the level of success that you currently have. And it's just an interesting thing to look at, because in other words, like if you meet someone like, well, it's working pretty good. So I got here because I'm successful, but the skill that got you here today will not get you where you want to go tomorrow. And I know that we've all worked with that type of person before, and I hope that we're not that person. So the other thing is, if you can please write this down, and I'd like to ask you this too. How many of you can just say yes to both or yes or one. How many of you are a supervisor or a manager? And does anyone here have children? And if you don't have that's okay. You were one. And I think you'll be able to relate. Yes to both. Yes to both. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you this question in my other session too. So if you're in that one, you may hear this again. Have you ever looked at a person and thought to yourself, my goodness, how many times do I have to tell you? Who has said that phrase recently to themselves? This morning. Okay. All right. Now I want to ask you to have this like self-evaluation level of honesty. Helen, Kimberly, Chris, Jessica, I know. So here's the thing. If you have to say, how many times do I have to tell you more than twice? Maybe we should change the way we deliver the message and the instructions. Just something to consider. If you haven't said that phrase for years, good for you. Chances are you're very good at communicating. But one of the things is to be very clear, I mean crystal clear, with purpose, expectations, and directions. We want to avoid the idea or the phrase of how many times do I have to tell you, as much as possible. A good thing to do that has been proven to be very helpful is to just ask the person, can you do me a favor? Can you summarize what we just discussed? It's kind of a golden thing to do, a standard in communication. But if you're not crystal clear, without those, people are going to wander through the tasks. Now, for example, here's an exercise, and you can ask this of your coworkers. If you're all together on this conference, then you can do it separately or at another opportunity. But ask yourself, does everyone on my team know what the number one goal is? So if you go to each team member individually and ask them, what is the number one goal here? Or what's the number one goal for the day? You should get a similar answer. If you get a different answer, that's an opportunity to improve our level of communication. And just because you say the words does not mean the person understands it. And so this directly relates to how we get things done and how we master our routines. At the end of the day, mastering your routines is mastering your behavior and the allocation of your resources. So we have to make sure that we really do our best to understand this. That's it. Does everyone know what the number one goal is for the day? And if the answer is no, or you get looks or different answers, that's an opportunity. And as a coach, this has happened to me too. In my mind, I'm totally clear with what's expected. And then we ask someone else to summarize it, and I get a different answer. And so we just have to let ourselves know that we can do it a little differently, communicate differently. Now, I would like to ask you this, and you can type this in the chat box. What is the difference between urgency and importance? And does everyone on your team know how you evaluate that? So type in the chat box if you can give us a definition of what the difference is. How do you discern the difference between urgency and importance? Okay, please write this down if you can, if you have notes. Okay, urgency matters first. Now, this is where you start to look at your routines in your day and you say, okay, we have all daily assignments. If this happens, this is when you stop what you're doing. And everything is important. We can't say that something's not important, but there are things that need to go ahead of the list. So urgency matters first. For example, if fire, flood, any kind of personal accident, any type of major liability, something like that, everyone needs to stop what they're doing. And then, of course, they'll take care of that. But a great way to fill in the gray areas is by telling stories, using specific examples, letting someone on your team know that this is what I mean by this. If this specific situation happens, I want you to stop what you're doing. And then what happens with those stories is they start to communicate your judgment and where your decision-making process comes in. So urgency is something that needs it immediately. And of course, everything is important, but some things can be put later on the list than others. And that's the most important thing. But everybody should know what you consider urgent. And if they don't, it's a good opportunity to make that clear. Okay, now something for a major consideration. And I want you to really think about this. And I would like you to take notes if you can. And I want you to think about yourself. So number one, is your mindset something that you invest in as much as your skill set? Now, as a coach, there's two things. If skill sets are even, mindset makes the difference. If mindset is even, skill set makes the difference. However, most people that are top performers in any endeavor whatsoever in life, in business, in relationships, you name it, will tell you that you have to work on your mindset as much as your skill set. How many of you have hired someone with a perfect skill set and then their attitude and their mindset is what caused them to leave or caused an issue? Michael, just saw one go. Absolutely, Nicole. And we all know this. Now, as a supervisor, as a manager, as someone that's scheduling things, do we really invest in our mindset? Is that something that you do on a regular basis? I hope it is. And we have to make sure that we know and we provide evidence that we're doing this. So it could be as simple as reading a book. It could be as simple as having a conversation with someone. It could be as simple as, hey, do me a favor. I need you to be honest with me, even if it's something I don't want to hear. Is this going to be effective? Will we get the results we want? And someone will let you know either way. Okay, now everybody on the call, I want you to type this in, please. What time of the day are you most productive? You personally, not that you want to be. In other words, where's the one part of the day where you just get it done? Like you're on fire. Okay, let's go through these. 9 to 12, second, 9 to noon. Oh, wow, 9 p.m. Okay. Morning, second, 6 to lunch. Okay, they're all flying in. All right, depends on the day. Second, first. if you want to follow a few rules, here's something to write down, and I want you to think about this. If you have 2 hours of the day where you are highly productive, those are the 2 hours of the day that you don't answer the phone, you don't check email, and you do not allow interruptions, even if it's to the point where you close your door and put a sign in there, do not disturb for 2 hours. Whenever you're in that productive, highly focused, high result mode, do not let anybody interrupt you. The moment you allow those distractions, you've just interrupted your peak productivity time, and you won't be as productive as you want to be. Now, if you look at say the 80-20 rule, it comes off of something called Pareto's law. How many of you, and you can just put me, yes or no, have usually on average 1 day a week where you say to yourself, I got more done today than I did in the 4 other days of the week? Okay, so I want you to work on this, and I want you to ask yourself, what is my 80 and what is my 20? And if the answer is sometimes, I'm glad you're on this call with us. Protect this time at all cost, and don't let anything other than a severe emergency interrupt this high productivity time, because you'll get it done. Now, there's a few other things that we're going to add to this too. So now the next question is, what time of day are you least productive? You can just put first, second, third, or fourth. Fourth, third, fourth. Okay, it looks like third and fourth are ahead of the game. First is making an honorable mention. Third's not even really. Oh, there we go. Third and fourth. None. Okay. All right. I would like you to think about this, just to take for as a consideration. If I know my most productive 2 hours of the day, protect them. If I know my least productive, what can I do to work on that? Typically, it's after people eat lunch. If they eat a late lunch, typically it's going to be in the last 2 to 3 hours of the day. If you eat a little bit of an early lunch, it's usually in the third period of that. So this is where the physical activity is more important than the mental activity and the administrative work, if you have any. So the thing is, this is where you have to move around a little bit more. Typically, it's after you eat, not for everybody, but as a general statement, know what time you're most productive, protect it. Know what time you're least productive, and improve it, and start working on that. So your 20% can be hopefully occupy another day in the week. Now that you know this about yourself, for example, if you can ask yourself this question, do I really think about the way I think? Do I look at my mind as a device that troubleshoots and seeks to be more productive and get more results? Why is it that some high performers don't let the noise interfere with their day? And this is the thinking that you have to develop. It's a developed skill. We're not born with this. We're born with attributes, but we develop habits. And one of the habits is eliminating the distractions, highly focusing. Sometimes, you ever notice that people that really get results done, they don't put up with any drama. They don't put up with any distractions. They can see right through the noise that's not really important, and they get right to the task at hand, and they move with purpose, and they take care of it, and they get it done. And the thing is we have to work on our mindset, our skill set. We have to work on our emotions as we approach things, because if we get too emotionally invested in something, it can also cloud our productivity. At the same time, we are all human beings. And I know that, and we know that, and we deal with people in a people business, and things happen in this business that you would never expect. And I don't know about you, but if we're sitting at my table at Thanksgiving dinner and we start talking about work or how things are going, and we start telling stories, true or false, many of your friends or family members would think the stories that you tell just can't be true, and like they can't happen. And you could say, well, you know what, have a seat, because you won't believe what happens on a daily basis, especially in this industry. So we have to know where our distractions are, where our peak performance is, where our least productive part of the day is, and start to work on that. Now, when it comes to prioritizing, please write this down. 3D. And I put them in 3 buckets so you can put your work this way. And there's a couple of things that I like to do with this. So the first one is to do it. Okay. And this is really as simple as it is. Get to it, get what you need, get it done, drop it, and move on to the next thing. So there's now, if you can't do it, it's got to be delegated to someone that can do it within that time frame. Whether it's, and this is something I personally have a lot of success with, is okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 things to do today. Nobody's going to lunch until you get these 3 things done. That's it. I don't know what it is, but you can't go to lunch, you can't go home, or you got 5 minutes to get it done. Someone's coming. Get things done more quickly than probably anything I know. And we also have to learn how we think about things and what gets us fired up to get it done. But the thing is you can't operate in 100% mode 100% of the time. You have to allow for recovery. Recovery is part of training. Recovery is part of high performance. So there does have to be some level of that. And then of course, delete it. So now let me ask you this. And I suspect that some of us on this call do. How many of you have a to-do list or a wish list with dates on it? And much of that, what's on that list has not been done. Yeah. Okay. I see this a lot, of course, right? Like who doesn't? Personal lives, business, it's a long list. Okay, here's the deal. If you look at a bowl of soup, you don't drink the whole bowl. You take the spoon, and if the soup is really hot, you take 1 spoon or you wait, or you go around the edge, and then you wait, and then you take it. You can only eat a bowl of soup one spoon at a time. You can only eat a sandwich 1 bite at a time. If you have a wish list and it doesn't have dates with specific measurables, it's a hope list. It's not a to-do list. I hope it might get done someday. The thing is here's the deal. Give yourself time limits where I can't do something. I can't go home. I can't go to lunch. We can't do something unless this one thing happens, and start removing that list. And that list should be short, and you have to divide it into reasonable, unreasonable, controllable, uncontrollable. We don't want a hope list. We want a to-do list that's going to guide us to get results, because that's what we're hired for. Is we're hired to help the owners make their business successful by getting things done, making problems go away, correcting our behavior and mindset and skill set until we generate results to the best of our ability with what we have. Now, moving to the next slide, here's some best practices for the service. Okay, now this is of course liability during this wonderful time in history, okay, with the pandemic and everything. But here's the deal, okay, we have to look at this from a lot of perspectives. And the one thing about this industry is we have to wear a lot of hats, and there's just a lot going on all the time, every day. We have to keep up with processes. We have to follow protocols. We have to know the policies and the procedures, and we have to balance liability versus results. And very often when people are stressed out, or there's too much confrontation, or they don't know how to deal with things, they start to focus more on results, and they take it out on the people in the field. They take it out on the people in the office. They take it out on somebody other than themselves. So we have to look at this and say, okay, how can I help my processes improve just to make everyone's life easier? Simple. And then where do I balance results and approval and liability? All of those have to be measured out and balanced. It varies state from state. Just because one state does something a certain way does not mean in any way, shape, or form it may be done that way somewhere else. And this is where standardization can become a challenge at sometimes. So we have to really know and have some level of insight with this. Now, of course, you know, the protective equipment, like anything else, we have to make sure that everybody has it. You know, I see this come up a lot, like, oh, you know, we have equipment. Okay, has it actually been used though, right? You know, so we have to make sure that people have it and they have a fresh supply. Equipment and training, everybody needs what they need. Now, I got to say this, quite honestly, to everyone in the service department, I think you're going to appreciate this. To everyone that is responsible for getting tools and equipment to the people in the service department, we need good tools. We need good equipment. We need equipment that's modern and updated. Most of us don't even use a cell phone that's more than 2, 3, 4 years old, maybe 5 if it's got, you know, if it's on its last leg. Why do we have the same tools and equipment and HVAC gauges that we had 10 years ago? It's a cost of business to get good tools and equipment. We have to have them. If you want to please write a statement down, please write this down. If you want realistic results, you must have realistic resources, realistic timeframes, and realistic skill sets. You cannot expect people to just create miracles out of a shortage of resources and time. We have to have what we need, and it's just the cost of doing business. Screening now is going to be something that I think you'll see carried over a little bit. I really believe that, is there anyone healthy in the home or ill in the home or something of that nature, may become more of a standard question when it comes to submitting service requests and responding to them. Is there someone home that we should be, that we should be aware of, and anything like that. But we also have to communicate with what you must do and follow up with everyone. And everyone's got to follow the same standards. And it's very important. The two causes of most things not getting done is communication and leadership, poor communication and leadership. Being crystal clear with the goals. Do you have everything you need? Do you have the tools that you need? Do you have gauges? I remember a manager in a session told me that $400 for a set of digital gauges was too expensive. And I thought, my goodness, I mean, one condensing unit cost 2 to 3 times that. If you had a contract to put it in, it would be 10 times that amount. It's not too much. They last a really long time. So we have to really go out of our way to get the technicians what they need and start putting this into our, because here's the deal. Better tools get you better results in less time. Now, work orders themselves, please write this down. You can take a photo if you like. Of course, everything will be available to you. I could go on about this session for hours, but here's the deal. I want you to think about this phrase. I've used this phrase for many years. It's just something that I coined, and I think it's very helpful for people to understand. Is what is the time on task average? In other words, on average, on my property, how long does it take most people to do a certain thing? Now, it may be completely different from one unit to another, depending on the construction, and there's a lot of variables. Like, for example, it may take 2 hours to replace a water heater on one unit. You go to the unit right next to it, and the walls are framed differently, and now it takes 6 hours, and it needs carpentry. But you'll start to see trends come up. So I want you to think about this. How long does it take most people? And if there's an extra long amount of time, there should just be a good reason to justify it. And if there's not, then we maybe have a conversation, look at training or resources. Maybe we're not doing a good enough job to support you in the field. But for everyone that's in the service department, please tell me if you agree, slightly disagree, totally disagree, if it's about right or spot on. 65% of all of the work that is done on site for the service department is administration, follow-up, paperwork, protocols, processes, cleanup, and bringing components and parts to and from the person's home. 35% of it is actual physical work on the task itself. And so it's a very, it's a big mistake. I'll actually use that word to try to fill 8 hours of a workday with tasks at hand. 8 hours should be filled with achieving those tasks, but the actual work on the task itself will not be or ever equal 8 hours. So this can absolutely really change the way that you look at a service department. I'll give you another example and I'll go through the other bullet points. Say I work for you and there's 4 technicians and 3 of them replace a water heater in 2 hours. Consistently, it takes me 3.5. It's probably a training issue for me. So now all you have to do is invest in training, or there should be another reason that justifies it, that makes people go or think, okay, that makes sense, and let's approach it differently. So you can start to identify where the training is an issue by doing this. You can start giving the work orders to technician and personnel based on their skills. And how long does it take a technician? How long does it take on this property for the company? What is the industry average for this? And I do have some handouts for everybody here that you can download that come with this presentation and the other one. But this is important to really start to look at and say, okay, you know what? It takes most people about this time. We have 2 phases in our property. This half, everything takes longer. The other half, it's a lot easier. It was built differently. But we need to make sure that our managers know that, because not everything is built the same. Not everything is managed the same. And it may be owned by the same company, but we have to understand that and know that and match it with the skill sets. Now, this comes, and this is, I want you to think about too. What type of work, without even going to the property, what type of work should be done first? So for example, if I work for you or someone works for you and they ask you, what type of work should we do first? How do we prioritize it? How would you answer that question? And of course, I have some insights and some considerations, but we should know, right? Okay, leaks, Tyler, yes. Leaks are definitely one of them, okay? If there's a leak, you need to stop what you're doing and go take care of the leak. If there's a fire, you need to stop what you're doing and go take care of that. So let's look at this a little bit more, okay? Organizing the day. And of course, you can pick and choose whatever you like from this. A power outage, of course, would be one for sure. So that you incorporate this into the organization of the day, all right? So standards must be known. Here's the deal. If you don't tell people exactly what's expected of you or expected of them by you, all they're going to do is guess based on what's worked in their past. So we have to make sure that we do better than that. Prioritize by urgency and then importance. And now let's fill in what that urgency means. Fire, flood, blood, anything that could cause severe personal or property damage or be very expensive. Here's the thing too, do the ugly work first. And I don't know about you, but if you're in the service department, have you worked with people that, how do we say this, like to cherry pick work, and they like to do certain types of work ahead of others? So we have to make sure very often that we assign that work in a way that everybody understands. You're not always going to get to do the work that you want to do, but all of us together have to do the work that's necessary. So here's the deal. And I don't know about you, but sometimes when I'm on site and I have this one job or task looming over me and it follows me around like a black cloud. And then when you finally get that task done, it might even be talking with a specific resident or a customer that just likes to give you a hard time. And in your mind, you're like, oh my goodness. But when you get finished with that task, the clouds move out of the way, the entire day opens up, and all of a sudden the rest of the day is seemingly easier. So try to have an ugly work first approach when you do this. The technically demanding work first. Now, to all the technicians on this call, why would you want to do the technically demanding work first, such as like replace a water heater first thing in the morning, replace a condensing unit or a compressor in the morning, as opposed to starting after lunch? What are the benefits of doing that? Eat the frog first. I've never heard that phrase. Everything will be more pleasant after that. It might take, so Ben, thank you. Okay. It might take you a lot longer. And now if you have to go to the supplier and get something, you have time. If you wait until 3 o'clock to start a job that should take about an hour, at 4:30, you're going to need a part that you have to now wait until the next day. And I have seen this happen to even myself. I can't countless times until I learned my lesson. And of course, now it doesn't happen that much. It's still going to happen on occasion. There's always going to be a surprise, but do the technically demanding work first. Okay, now a little bit more on the work orders. Assign them to specific skills. So when you build your service team, it's very important that everyone has different skill sets and strong points. You don't want to hire everyone that's really good at the same thing, unless that's exactly what you need. But so one person's better at carpentry, one's better at, keying locks, one's better at plumbing, one's better at painting, one's better at HVAC. Assign those to that person and then cluster them wherever you can. So if you have 3 AC calls on one side of the property, that one person will get the 3 AC calls. It's probably what they're going to do for most of the day. Now, let me say this with AC calls. For everyone that's in the service department, I think you'll appreciate this. If you're not in the service department, if somebody does an AC call in less than around 40 minutes, it makes me nervous. I have to tell you, I was an HVAC contractor. And whenever I see people do work too quickly, it means it wasn't done thoroughly. So if you have someone that can do 20 AC calls in a day, that person would scare me. They wouldn't really impress me. So we want to make sure that we take our time, we do it right. We don't have to go back ever again. And that's the best compliment that you could give your customer and your management and the owners of the company. So you can do this by technicians, skill, location, group work with vendors. If you have a vendor, most vendors will say, I want to paint. If I'll come and I'll paint a 1 bedroom, but if you have 2 or 3 others, I'd like to do that all in one day, because showing up very often is the most expensive part of a job. So if you pour concrete, if you get 1 yard of concrete, which is not much, you're going to pay for the entire truck to show up with the whole crew. If you need 9, the whole 9 yards, the truck, it's really not that much more from a material standpoint because you already paid for the crew and the truck. And the same goes with vendors. So if you can make the vendors' trips maximized as much as possible, they're going to have a more profitable experience and you're going to get more done at the same time. When you start having people go back and forth is when it depletes your results. And of course, preventive maintenance whenever possible. When is the best time to do preventive maintenance? In an occupied unit or in a vacant? If you could just answer that in the chat. I want to hear this from everybody. What do you think is better? Okay, for now, all of you that are saying vacant, why? Why is it better? Less invasive. Can do as much. Good, Ben, Helen, yes, Chris, excellent. Tyler, you can take your time. Okay, the quickest way to get a vacant done is to take your time and do everything that you need to do. It's everything you guys are telling us. It's less invasive. Here's the deal. If you want a 3-day turn, you can get one. I can tell you right now, it won't be as good as a 4 or a 5-day turn because we can take our time. And I mean move with purpose, but we need time. The other thing is, this is where you can do all of the things that cause you headaches in the future. So if you have the opportunity, in other words, don't operate in crisis mode all the time. Now, as someone that's in the service department, we're obligated to have one of everything available as much as possible for everyone in the office. And that's part of our job. But it could be great if you could allow us more time to get all of the things done thoroughly with detail, effectively. That would be amazing for everybody. Everybody benefits from that. Okay, now another consideration. How much time? So let me just kind of frame this. I'm climbing up a flight of stairs. I've got a refrigerator on a hand truck, strapped in, bump, 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 bump up the stairs. Someone calls you on the phone. Hey, I need you to stop what you're doing and run over here real quick. Well, okay, I'm almost done with this. No, I need you to stop. You're like, I'm in the middle of the stairs with an appliance. Do you want me to bring it back or do you want me to leave it here? Because it'll take 10 minutes. I need you to stop what you're doing real quick and please just go take care of this. Every time you interrupt a technician from doing something, how much time does it add on to the job in minutes? Can you please type that in the chat box? And if you don't know, you could say, I don't know. Somebody put 1 million minutes. Okay. 30 to 60, 40, 30. Countless. Okay. Okay, so the times coming in are pretty good. Some of them, if you have a time, all right. Yep, and lots of frustration. Good, hours. Okay, this is from a very thorough study. If you're a manager, service manager, assistant manager, supervisor, you have anything to do with interrupting people during the workforce, I want you to write down a couple of things. And if you know this, great. If you don't, please write it down. Out of an 8-hour day, the average person works 5.3 hours of that day due to administrative tasks and interruptions. So out of 8 hours, you're getting just a little bit over 5, right? Okay. Now, every time you interrupt someone, a service technician, you will at minimum add 23 minutes. If you interrupt a person 2 or 3 times a day, you just brought 5 hours down to 4. And I'm not saying don't interrupt anybody. What I am asking you though, really, genuinely, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, is please don't interrupt technicians for a nuisance. Only interrupt technicians for an emergency. And it will make a huge difference in your level of productivity. So anytime you have a chance, and I know all the technicians like, yes, I'm preaching to the choir, but the thing is it costs you money. Time is the most valuable asset that you have. You'll never regain another moment of it. Please don't interrupt people unless it truly is an emergency, because you put the team on crisis mode and we're doing tasks twice. But if it's an emergency, by all means, interrupt the workday. but if it can be avoided, please let it be avoided. And I know every technician on this call is like, oh man, you just made my day. But please, we're going to work with you the same way. I know you don't want anyone going in the office interrupting you to either 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 times a day. And that happens on both sides. Okay, now preparing for the upcoming season. I'd like you to write down everything here as well. More PM, please allow for it. Clean the drain pans, put tablets in there, do all the little things that really would make you invasive or have to interfere with the experience of the resident on your property, whatever that is. More time to complete turns when it's needed. Please do not ask your service team to operate in crisis mode all the time. Okay, and judged by the comments, good, I'm glad, because we have to work together with this. And sometimes we can say it to our managers or whoever's in charge of us regionals, and the people that have experience in the field, this makes sense. If you don't, we want it to make sense. And we want to understand your job better too, so we can help you just as much. But clean the AC coils. Something as simple as that can go a really long way. And what happens when people are in a time crunch or shortage of personnel is preventive maintenance and training get put on the back burner first. And then we're stuck shorthanded with little training, trying to get things done. And it creates this like cyclical effect that's negative. We should have a floor plan. Please have better tools, good meters, cordless drills, all of the tools that you need. If a technician doesn't have tools, honestly, I don't even know what to say. Some tools don't ever change, like a hammer. It's going to be a hammer for as long as it's in existence. But a lot of the technology is really a time saver. And for a few $100s, you can save that in payroll and hours alone, plus even just frustration. And, you know, when you're on call, the last thing you want to do is spend 2 hours on a call, where if you had a piece of equipment that was $100 or $200, you could do in 10 minutes. And you're going to pay for that too through payroll. So we want to maximize everything. And then here, all of this, please, here's what I want you to think about. What are the potential headaches on my property, and how do I get ahead of them? And not only how do I get ahead of them, but how do I get ahead of them in a timely manner? That is the key. And how do I get the resources to get ahead of them? Okay, so a couple things here. Please ask yourself this. Write down 4 seasons if you have 4. If you have 2, that's okay. You may have 1, I don't know. What are the top headaches in each season? And if you only have 1 or 2 seasons, then do it per month. If you look at the history of your property, if you have software, you can tell what the top headaches are. December, January, February, March, June, August, whatever that is. In the summer, it's usually HVAC. And after that, it's usually water extractions because of the coils and drain pans backing up. It also could be swimming pools in the summer. In the spring, yeah, it could be, right. Spring might be the busiest for you, Justin. Absolutely. So we have to make sure that we understand all of these things. Prepare for them. Please get the resources that we need, or everybody needs, ahead of time, especially now with all of the supply issues. It's going to take a lot longer. So now we have to have better planning, because the flow of goods is not quite where it should be. So the inventory of goods is a little more important. Train people for them. If you're like, I don't even know what to train people on. What are the top 5 headaches every season? Start there. It'll transform your entire service department, because now everybody can handle the top 5 things that cause the most headaches on your property. And please allow technicians enough time to repair the leaks in air conditioning systems, not just charge them and wait until next year. Provide the resources for them, whatever that is. You need gauges, here it is. You need a meter, here it is. You need a face shield and gloves, here you go. Eliminate every obstacle there is that would happen in the workplace so people can focus on the task at hand. And that's one of the most important things that we could do. Next is have the realistic timeframes. Please know what it takes a good technician in time to make the repair correctly. I see this a lot too on property too. Oh, I've got a friend, a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. My friends that have never done this or never been here told me it should take that long. And then what happens is you use that as a judgment or a comparison against a good technician on a property, and it can start to create this level of distrust. So trust the people that are on the property, that know how long it takes, and start to get the time on task averaged out. Now, there's a saying before we turn it up open to question, Q&A. I wanted to show you these two photos. I know everyone knows that this is a fox and here's a rabbit. And there's a saying in jujitsu, and I'm going to use a jujitsu saying for this, but is that a fox will always run for a meal, but a rabbit runs for its life. Both of them are running, and we have to know why we're running, and we have to know what we're running towards. It's not enough to just run. It's not enough to just be busy. It's not enough to just consume your day with activities that don't generate as many results as possible. And I feel as if we're hired by a company to make their company successful, we should do our best, and we should move with purpose, and we know why we're running, and we should have the resources. And if you're a manager, we need the resources from you so you can help us help you to ultimately help the resident and eliminate a lot of the unnecessary stress and frustrations that come with it. The top two excuses people give for not buying equipment that's needed is we don't have the time and we don't have the money. So I think it's very important if you say, okay, other than those two, why can't we have it? Okay, and these are just interesting questions that we come up with, but I think it's really important that we ask these questions and we understand. So it comes down to this, okay, it's really, you have to know it's not enough to be busy. You have to know why you're busy. Now, I want to give you an example for everyone on this call. If you look, I want you to look into this. The Empire State Building was built in 12 months, 14 if you want to include some planning, 102 floors in 12 to 14 months. A lot of companies today can't even get software deployed in 12 to 14 months. So we want to make sure that we're moving for the right purpose. And if you look at the photo, the bee is praised and the mosquito is swatted. They're both just doing what they're supposed to do. They're both just being busy. But the purpose of why they're busy, it's what's important here, especially. So I would like to open this up for any questions that we have. It's my pleasure to share my best, but I genuinely appreciate you coming to this session. So if you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Mark. Yes, you can either use the Q&A box or you can actually go ahead and put it in the chat right now if you have any questions for Mark. But Mark, I have a question for you. You're talking about at the beginning how everybody is doing a lot more with fewer people, right? Everybody is hiring right now. And so, I think that there's a little bit of a concern to ask for this equipment and ask for these new tools in a time where they're trying so hard. So what's the conversation that you can have with your boss to kind of get over that bridge, to have them understand that, yes, if I get these new tools, at least I can do things more efficiently right now while we're waiting to get more staff to help us?
Sure. So right now, if you look at it, and I have employees, I understand this. So if I'm short, I have two things that I could look at. If I'm not paying a person in payroll because I can't find them, I can use that towards tools and equipment to maximize the productivity of the people on site. And it's really important, for us as owners to say, okay, look, I may not want to spend $1,000 on tools and equipment, but I'm shorthanded or you're shorthanded, you're on call. I can't thank you enough. The least I can do is get you all the tools that you need and give you some bells and whistles, at least to provide some mental relief of frustration and stresses in the workplace. Plus, you're going to get more done. And really, the thing is who doesn't want more done? I can't imagine an owner, but the thing is we look at the expenditure part of it as the obstacle itself instead of the production that it saves in overtime and payroll and happy residents. And so as an owner, I think we're obligated to give our people what they need to do their job without asking and begging for it, to just gladly hand it to them.
Right. Yeah. Well, great information, Mark. Thank you so much. If you haven't looked ahead in your schedule, know that Mark is also up next with another great session that I think piggybacks a lot off of this, because it starts to talk about the relationship between the on-site and office professionals and how you can bridge that gap there. Mark, before we wrap up, we are giving away gift cards, as we said at the beginning. And so I have got my little list here. So I need you to pick a number between 1 and 115.
78.
78. Okay. So let me go up here.
Let's see who that is.
It is Michael Chesley. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Michael, we will reach out to you with your gift card following the session. Thank you so much. And remember, we have another session up next. It is Maintenance Appreciation Month. So if you attend all 4 sessions today, you will be entered into another drawing for $100. But we're going to let Mark wrap up now so that he can get ready for his next session. Let you take a quick bio break, and we'll see you over in the next session. Thank you so much. Great, great content. Mark's information will be loaded into the resources tab by tomorrow. The recording, his slide deck, there was a lot of great, really good tidbits of information in there. So if you need to watch it again, or you need somebody else on your team to watch it, you can do that. Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much,
everyone.
Mark.
Take care.
Bye-bye.